Hello and welcome to my video on exploring failover cluster management options. And what we're going to do in this activity is we're just going to see all the options that are available for after you configure a failover cluster. So we're going to do things such as validating that our cluster is still in good operational order. Then we're going to use some commandlets out of PowerShell to stop and start the cluster, and then we're also going to move it to a different node just to verify everything is in working order. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up Server Manager here on 412 Server 2. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Tools and Failover Cluster Manager. Alright, and we do have our Failover 1 right here, DOM Local. We're going to right click it and we're going to do Validate Cluster. There's just some normal information we're going to do next. And then we're doing the default run all tests. And we're going to run it on both cluster disks just to make sure it's good. And it shows what tests are going to be performed. When we initially started up the cluster, these are the tests we ran, but we're going to go ahead and run them again just to make sure everything's still in good working order. So we're going to go ahead and hit next, and you can see if you're looking at these that it's running through each test, making sure it's going to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just pause the recording while these tests run, and I'll go ahead and show you the results window once it's done. So we'll be right back with you. Now we're back. The validation tests went ahead and completed, and just as expected in the book, the only thing that really failed was network, and that's only because we only have one network connection, where when you're doing a failover cluster they recommend usually 2 to 3 network connections so that you have fail safes just in case something goes wrong. Because as you can see here on this Internet Explorer window, everything is a success except for stuff that validates the network communication. And you can see here only one pair of network interfaces. It is possible that this network path is a single point of failure for the communication within the cluster. Alright, so we'll go ahead and close out of that, and we're going to go ahead and finish the wizard. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and shut down the cluster. We're going to right click Failover Cluster again. We're going to go down to More Actions, and we're going to shut down cluster. Alright, the cluster's shut down. So we're going to go ahead and just minimize this because we might need it again. I'm going to minimize that, and we're going to go ahead and open up a PowerShell window. And within the PowerShell window, we're just going to type simply start cluster and hit enter. Alright, and then we're going to see all the information about the cluster. We're going to do this command, get cluster format list property and then an asterisk and hit enter. And this gives us all the information about the cluster. You can see here the name right here, Failover 1, and we got all this information about it. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and bring up Failover Cluster Manager again. And we're just going to make sure that, okay, and it looks like it's up and going, because if it wasn't right here it would say that it's down. And you see the current host server here is the server we're on right now, 412 server 2. Okay, we're going to go ahead and scroll down here and check out cluster core resources. And then what we're going to do is we want to go ahead and see if we're able to move it to a different node. So we're going to right click on it, we're going to go down to more actions, and we're going to go to move core cluster resources to, and click select node. And since 412 server 2 currently owns it, the only option is 412 server 3. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And those are going to be brought offline and then back online. Alright, those are both online. If we scroll up here, you can see that the current host server is 412 server 3. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just minimize that again. We're going to bring up another PowerShell. And in this PowerShell, we're going to go ahead and type get cluster group, and then in parentheses cluster group, and then we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and that shows us the current owner of the cluster group, 412 server 3. And then what we're going to do is type in the move command, and it'll be move cluster group, and then again cluster group, like that. And what this does is, instead of selecting a node, it will just move the cluster group to the best possible node. We're just going to wait a second while that command finishes. Alright, and you can see there that it shows that server 2 is the one, but just to verify that, we're going to type get cluster group, and you can see 412 server 2 is the owner, the failover cluster is online. And that concludes the video. I do thank you for watching my video on exploring failover cluster management, validating the cluster to make sure it's still working, moving it to a different node, as well as some PowerShell commandlets that you can use in the future to configure your cluster. Once again, I thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great day.